Hello, and welcome to episode 409 of AI Brief. We have a pretty dense show for you today. There's been this narrative floating around for a few months now that AI progress is stalling.
Oh, yeah, you hear it all the time. We've hit a wall, the hype is over.
Exactly. And if you've been listening to that chatter, you might have started to believe it.
And then, in what felt like the span of about 12 hours, the entire industry just shifted into a completely new gear. The updates we're looking at today suggest that wall isn't just a myth, it's being bulldozed.
It really is. And we're not talking about slightly better chatbots today. We are looking at the infrastructure for a whole new kind of digital workforce. So here's the plan. We have three big pillars.
Okay.
First, we're going to dissect Frontier. This is OpenAI's new play. And it is not a model. It's a management system for what they're calling AI coworkers.
Then we're going to hit a roundup that is, frankly, a lot. Perplexity has a new model council. Anthropic just rattled the stock market. And we have new benchmarks on GPT 5.2 that are pretty sobering.
And finally, the toolkit. We've got the list of trending tools from today's news that you actually need to pay attention to. But let's start with the headliner, OpenAI Frontier.
This is the big one. And it's fascinating because they aren't pitching raw intelligence. They're pitching a platform.
Right. For the last couple of years, the war has been all about the model. Who has the highest score?
Whose model has the highest IQ?
But Frontier seems to admit that a high IQ doesn't mean much if you can't securely integrate it into a real business process.
Precisely. Frontier is designed to be the enterprise orchestration layer. Think of it less like a new GPT and more like the human resources department for your software. Its whole purpose is to deploy and manage AI agents.
And they're very intentional with that language. They're not bots. They're coworkers.
That word coworker does a lot of heavy lifting. It implies a level of autonomy that, we haven't really seen standardized.
So let's get a bit technical. How is this different from what companies are already trying to do, wrapping GPT-4 in their own internal tools? What does Frontier actually do?
So the current way of doing things is basically an API call. You send data out, you get text back, maybe you have a RAG set up. Frontier is a total architectural shift. It connects directly into the existing enterprise stack.
So native integrations into things like Salesforce, Jira, internal databases.
Exactly.
Okay, but that immediately sounds like a data migration nightmare. If I'm a CTO, all I hear is 6 months of engineering work and a ton of security audits.
And that's actually the main selling point. It's designed to minimize that migration. Usually you have to move your data to where the model is. Frontier flips that. It brings the agent to the workflow.
Okay, that's a big deal.
But the coworker part really comes alive in the feedback loop. This is something we haven't seen productized this way before.
How does that loop work? Is it just more fine-tuning?
It's more dynamic. The agents use built-in evaluations and human feedback, but at a microtask level. So let's say an agent closes a customer support ticket. A human manager sees it and says, hey, you solved the problem, but you forgot to tag the engineering team.
Right. In a normal setup, that's a coding change or a prompt engineering task.
Exactly. With Frontier, that feedback is treated like coaching. The agent learns from that specific interaction. It gets better at its job just by doing the job, like a new hire would.
The utility there is incredible, but that also sets off all my risk alarms. If this thing is learning and has read-write access to my CRM, how do you stop it from hallucinating a discount and wiping out revenue?
That is the billion-dollar question. And it's why Frontier is a management platform. It's all about governance. The core feature isn't the brain, it's the leash.
So like role-based access control, RBAC, but for AI.
It's exactly like RBAC. You can define hard limits. You can say, this agent can read the financial database, but it can only draft emails, not send them. It applies the kind of compliance controls banks use for their staff to the AI layer.
Which would explain the early adopter list. This isn't small startups. We're seeing HP, Oracle, State Farm, and Uber.
Heavily regulated companies with massive operational complexity. If they're adopting Frontier, it means the governance controls must be real.
And I saw that OpenAI is actually embedding their own engineers on site with these teams.
Yes, which tells you this isn't just plug and play yet. They're helping these companies figure out how to even manage a synthetic workforce. It's a huge strategic pivot.
It feels like the battle lines are just completely redrawn.
They are. The moat used to be the brain, the smartest model. But intelligence is getting cheaper. The new moat is the orchestration layer. If OpenAI owns the interface where you manage your digital employees, they own the enterprise.
You're not prompting anymore. You're managing. That's a fundamental change. But look, as huge as Frontier is, the rest of the industry didn't stand still. We have a lot more ground to cover.
We should probably slow down a little here because there's a lot of nuance in these next few updates. Let's start with perplexity. This one really hits on the biggest bottleneck in AI right now, verification.
Right, they launched something called the Model Council. I have to say, the name sounds very authoritative.
It does, doesn't it? But the function is very practical. We all know models hallucinate. The Model Council tries to fix this with an ensemble approach. When you ask a complex question, it doesn't just ping one AI.
It runs the prompt across 3 different frontier models at the same time.
Yes, specifically Claude Opus 4.5, GPT 5.2, and Gemini 3 Pro.
So the heavyweights. But doesn't that just give you 3 conflicting answers or triple the wait time?
It does add some latency, so it's more for deep research, not quick chats. But here's the clever part. It uses a fourth model, a synthesizer model, to read the other 3 outputs. It looks for conflicts, cross-references facts, and then generates a single verified consensus answer.
So it's basically automated peer review.
It is. If one model says revenue was $5 billion and another says 6, the synthesizer flags that discrepancy and either digs deeper or it highlights the uncertainty for you.
That is incredibly useful. Instead of me having to fact-check one AI against another, the system does it for me. Now, speaking of systems doing our work, Anthropic just made a move that actually, well, it rattled the stock market.
This is a big one. Anthropic released 11 open-source plugins for Claude Cowork. And we should be clear, these aren't simple plugins like a calculator. These are deep, vertical integrations meant to automate serious workflows.
Things like legal contract review, financial analysis, sales ops.
Right. And the market reacted violently. We saw a global stock sell-off in software, legal tech, IT services. Investors saw these capabilities and started pricing in major disruption.
It's that fear that if Claude can natively automate contract review, what happens to the SaaS companies charging thousands a month for that exact service?
That's the core fear. It's the disruption of the middleman software.
Yeah.
So much B2B software just wraps a workflow around a database. If an agent can do the workflow and query the database directly, that SaaS wrapper could become obsolete.
Now, there was a counterpoint from Jensen Huang at NVIDIA.
Yes, he called the sell-off illogical. His view is probably that this is a classic Jevons paradox. By making these tasks nearly free, the demand will just explode. If legal review costs nothing, you don't do less of it, you review everything.
That makes sense, but it's probably cold comfort if you're one of the SaaS companies. Moving on from the stock market to the gaming world, Roblox is making some moves.
Yes, they've introduced Cube AI, their new foundation model, and this gets us into 4D generation.
4D, so we're talking about adding time or motion.
Exactly. We're used to text to image or maybe text to 3D, but Cube AI can generate fully functional interactive objects from a text prompt. You don't just get a static 3D model of a car, you get a car that actually drives and interacts with the game's physics.
That just demolishes the barrier to entry for game creation. A kid can just speak a game into existence.
It really does. And while Roblox is focused on games, another company, Lotus Health, is focused on healthcare.
They just raised $35 million in their Series A.
They did, and their service model is aggressive. They're providing free AI-powered primary care across all 50 states. That's diagnosis, prescriptions, referrals.
Free, zero cost to the patient.
Free. It's a huge bet that the marginal cost of intelligence is dropping so fast that you can basically demonetize primary care.
It'll be a regulatory minefield, I'm sure, but it definitely shows where the capital is flowing. Okay, quickly, a couple more updates. Meta is breaking out its Vibes AI video platform into a standalone app.
Yeah, it was buried in the main app before. This suggests they're seeing enough engagement to justify its own product. Classic unbundling.
And finally, a benchmark update from METR on GPT 5.2 that kind of ties all of this together.
This is the stat that just stops you in your tracks. METR is an evaluation firm. They test these models. They found that the high version of GPT 5.2 can now handle tasks that would take a human engineer over 6 hours to complete.
6 hours of engineering work, done by the model.
Think about what a 6-hour task involves. It's not just writing one function. It's reading docs, planning architecture, writing code, debugging, refactoring. It requires long horizon planning.
That's a threshold that separates a tool from a true producer. It changes the entire economics of software development.
It really ties back to the frontier update we started with. If a model can do 6 hours of autonomous work, you absolutely need a management layer to oversee it. You don't watch it type for 6 hours. You assign it a task and walk away.
And that requires the trust and the governance we were talking about. The pieces are all fitting together.
They really are. The stagnation narrative is dead. We are deep in the deployment phase now.
All right, let's get practical. Let's look at the toolkit. These are the trending tools you should have on your radar today.
Let's run through them. We can probably group them to make it easier.
Sounds good. Let's start with the builders. If you're a developer, what should you be looking at?
Your default has probably just changed. GPT 5.3 Codex is OpenAI's new state-of-the-art agentic coding model. It plans before it types. It's the new standard.
And for pure reasoning power, complex analysis.
That's Claude Opus 4.6. Anthropic is still the one to beat for nuance and complex logic. If you're doing legal analysis or writing really detailed copy, that's the upgrade.
And we mentioned it before, but it definitely belongs in the toolkit. OpenAI Frontier.
Absolutely. If you're in an enterprise setting, this is the platform for creating and managing those AI agents. If you manage a team, you need to see a demo of this.
Same goes for Model Counsel from Perplexity.
Right. Essential for multi-model querying and synthesis. If accuracy is your absolute top priority, this is the tool.
Okay, now for some creative tools. Let's start with Animillo.
This is great for creators. It lets you compose tracks and create royalty-free music really easily. So, no more copyright strikes for podcasters or YouTubers.
And for visuals, MMG2.ai.
Yeah, it converts your images into AI art and video. It's a very fast way to remix visual assets for, say, a pitch deck or social media.
What about Reddy?
Reddy is interesting. It's a smart, floating AI assistant that sits on top of your operating system. It combines screen analysis, automation, and real-time transcription. It's like having a secretary looking over your shoulder, but in a good way.
And finally, Imagine.
This one is ambitious. It claims to turn your ideas into functional, production-ready products just through a chat interface.
Here.
I'd still treat it as experimental, but it's definitely one to play with.
It's amazing how fast this stack is evolving. I mean, you look at everything we just talked about, from managing AI employees to models doing 6 hours of engineering work, and the whole idea that AI is hitting a wall just seems ridiculous.
It really does. If anything, the wall is crumbling. The challenge now isn't the technology's capability, it's our ability to adapt our organizations and our workflows to actually keep up with it. The bottleneck isn't the GPU anymore, it's the org chart.
And that is the thought for today. If the AI can do the work of a junior engineer, what does your team need to look like next year? Make sure you're following the show so you don't miss an update, and please share this deep dive with a friend who needs to get up to speed.
We appreciate you listening.
See you in the next